We can read your question as a factual question about a company's self-assigned goal and/or about motivation. What is the purpose of the people working in actual firms? One could say that people should be free to define what purpose they wish to attach to their activity up to a certain point. And it's important to let them choose whether they wish to produce goods or services, whether they aim at being large or wish to remain small, and etc. One striking fact is that only a minority of firms emphasize the maximization of shareholder profit as their main goal in their statement of purpose. Another striking fact is that in terms of motivation, it is probably not frequent at all that entrepreneurs decide to launch an economic activity with the enrichment of shareholders as their main goal. Now, we can also read your question as a normative question. What should be the purpose of a company? And here, I will answer indirectly in a few steps. Step 1. It may be difficult to distinguish a purpose from a constraint. Some firms may see the satisfactions of consumers as their goal and the maximization of shareholders' profit as a constraint, as a mere means to invest and manage to produce the goods and services they wish to make available to consumers. And others may see that their main purpose is to maximize shareholders' profit, and that in order to achieve that, they need to be able to sell goods and services to consumers. I think that it matters that both firms themselves and states, as the authors of laws that frame the action of firms, define such a purpose. That they do so with the purpose constraint or goal and means distinction in mind. Step 2. In the same way as we don't expect the same tasks from a fireman or from a lawyer, from a secondary school teacher or from a farmer, it also makes sense to expect some degree of differentiation between the purpose of a pharmaceutical company and the one of a church organization, between the purpose of a state and the one of a political party or a trade union. Specialization brings benefits not only in terms of efficiency, but also in terms of separation of powers broadly construed. I would conjecture, however, that it's probably both desirable and unavoidable that there be overlap between the tasks organizations are expected to fulfill. For instance, the research department of a pharmaceutical company does things that partly overlap with what some research departments in faculties of pharmacy do. Yet we think that pharmaceutical companies differ in their purpose from faculties of pharmacy in universities. A too strong division of labor between organizations might bring undesirable outcomes. Step 3. Interdependency. There is no way we could define the purpose to be assigned to firms in isolation from the purpose of other organizations. For example, there is no way to justify the purpose of firms without knowing whether there is a state in charge of certain tasks, whether there exist universities in that country, etc. In weak state situations, the assumption is that the duties of firms towards society at large should be stronger. The question will then, of course, be on which grounds. The real challenge is the following. First, we should define the role of a given type of organization, having in mind the general objective that we should pursue as a society as a whole. Second, we should also leave some freedom to companies to circumscribe their role within the limits set by the state. Third, we should accept that companies are not supposed to do everything. However, if we often get a sense that firms don't do as much as they should, it means that we have a sense that the purpose of a company could be defined in a way that differs from the way in which the firms themselves self-define their own purpose. This is, of course, a very indirect way of answering your initial question, but I think that these points are key.